Hi friend, welcome to A Water Connection, a space created to learn, connect, and multiply the power of a conversation to give visibility to the water industry. I'm Jess Borges, a passionate human who believes you should increase your water curiosity. Welcome to episode 21, season 1 finale. First, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in throughout season 1. Your support, your feedback, and your enthusiasm have truly made this journey an incredible ride. When I launched this podcast back in January 2024, I hoped they would become a platform to connect, learn, and share valuable insights from the water sector. And thanks to you, we have made that happen. Also, happy National Water Week! This week is all about encouraging individuals, communities, schools, and organizations to be inspired to promote the importance of water. I can't think of a better week to release season 1 finale. In the past episodes, we have explored big concepts like purified recycled water, water regulation, indigenous water knowledge. But today, we're shifting gears a bit. Instead of diving deep into specific topics, we will be focusing on the people behind the water sector, their career journeys, the challenges they have faced, and the lessons they have learned along the way. The idea behind this episode came from an exciting initiative by the Australian Water Association called Careers in Water. It's a great platform that highlights the diverse opportunities in the water sector, shares inspiring career stories, and connects passionate professionals working towards sustainability and innovation. If you're curious about a career in water, I highly recommend checking that website out. I will leave the website in the show notes. Today, I have invited 3 incredible professionals who have followed each of them a unique path within the sector. Now, just a quick heads up, since these conversations were recorded separately, there will be a few transitions here and there, and also you might find myself asking several questions more than one time. I've kept that in to help keeping the flow of each story. And trust me, you'll find it fascinating to hear the different takes on the same challenges. So get ready for an inspiring career-focused episode. And once again, thank you so much for being a part of this project. I hope you enjoy the conversation. So let's talk with our first guest. Steve Adamthwaite is the water business leader for New South Wales and Australian Capital Territory at Arup. Steve's work focuses on driving water strategies centered on implementing sustainable, community-oriented solutions and delivering the best levels of service and infrastructure for the community and the industry. He's an influential innovator, passionate about driving change. He's actively involved in shaping future strategy through various leadership positions, including WaterAid, the Australian Water Association, and Engineers of Australia. So welcome to A Water Connection, Steve.
Thanks, Jess. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Let's start with a very simple question. How did you end up working in the water sector?
So my one came a little bit later in life compared to some other people, and it was really a realization that I didn't want to be doing what I was doing, and I wanted to be doing something that was more values oriented and impacted my local community. So prior to working in the water industry, I was working in, services to mining, and I spent a lot of time in Borneo and working on a project in Mongolia as well. And I remember flying back on a flight from Borneo thinking, it didn't really have the impact that I wanted it to have. And I got to home back to where I was living and thought it didn't matter whether I had a good day or a bad day or an effective day. It didn't make a difference to the people that I interacted with on a day-to-day basis or the community that I lived in. And I made the change to, shift what I was looking for in my career and join the water industry. And that's when I made the jump.
That's great. And what made you pick the water out of all the sectors? Then maybe you have a background in engineering, right?
I do. I am a chemical engineer per the piece of paper. Not a traditional example generally, but am an engineer. I think for me, it was, I guess, that real connection to the value of what you did to the lives in your community. So everyone wants to go to work and do something that matters. And if they're not at work, that also matters. And that was something that really resonated for me in the water industry, is that if people don't show up and don't put the effort in that we need to make the assets that we have perform as they should, and all of those sorts of things, we do have perverse outcomes. We do have health risks, and we do have environmental degradation and things like that. And that was something, I guess, that really spoke to me in terms of both good and bad outcomes, in that if I did really well and contributed really well, we would have really good outcomes. But then if I wasn't there doing those things, there was the potential to have bad outcomes, and the work that I did actually prevented those. So it wasn't just preventing bad outcomes from happening or making good outcomes from happening. It was doing the both. And I think that's what really resonated for me.
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it. At the end of the day, water is vital, and like having the opportunity to contribute to someone, think that without being there, we would be in deep trouble. So now I'm going to introduce to my second speaker of today, which is Dr. Lionel Ho. Lionel has over 25 years of experience in the water industry, and he is currently SA Water's Senior Manager of Water Expertise. Lionel has a distinguished research and technical background. He's a prominent leader in the Australian water industry, most notably with the Australian Water Association, Water Industry Alliance, and the International Water Association. Lionel has recently been recognised not in one, but in two of the most prestigious awards within the water sector. So last year he was awarded the South Australia's Premier Water Medal, and also the Australian Water Association's Exceptional Service Award, which is given in recognition of a long and meritorious service and a positive and demonstrable contribution to the association and the sector. So we're very lucky to have Lionel today here with us. Welcome to A Water Connection.
Hi, Jess. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you very much for joining us in this very special episode about careers in water. Just to get started, can you tell us a little bit about how you end up working in the water sector?
Sure. Look, for me, it was quite fortuitous. I was at university. I did a degree in microbiology and chemistry, and we had an honours project. This is 1997, so quite a while ago now. And the project was based at SA Water's laboratories at Bolivar. So I did an honours project for about a year. It was based in the microbiology laboratories. Did well there, and then I guess get path of least resistance. Got a first class honours degree, and then that led to a PhD scholarship, and I continued on at the laboratories at Bolivar, did my PhD there for 3 or so years in water treatment, and then again, path of least resistance, got a job in the laboratories as a research scientist, and yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, wow. And how did you end up doing an honours project precisely in the water sector? Like, was that something that your supervisor had available, or how did that come about?
It was really luck. I think I wanted to do something in molecular microbiology at the time, and it was back when PCR wasn't in vogue. So I was looking at PCR. Obviously now it's well known for COVID, but I was using it to detect Legionella longibeachy in potting mixes, and it was a case that causes pneumonia. So it was just that molecular microbiology that attracted me to it. It was just so happened that SA Water was having a project with my supervisor at the time, Professor Chris Saint. And I put my hand up and I got the project.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, as you say, the rest is history. And I think that one of the things that attracted us to embody to this and is your background in science, like, and demonstrating that a career in water doesn't really necessarily need to come from an engineering degree or anything. There's a whole heap of things that have to do specifically with science. And also, so you started as a researcher, like a scientist at SA Water, and now you're a senior manager of water expertise. So how did that happen?
Yeah, look, a majority of my background in the water industry has been in research. So I did
Yeah.
that for officially, close to 10 years. And then I did start to get itchy. I mean, SA Water is a big organization, 1,500 employees, large business groups. And I wanted to do something more than just research at the time. And in 2015, an opportunity came up in operations. And I always feel that if, as a researcher, you need to understand what's happening out in the field. And this role came up in a previous organisation known as All Water, the
Yep.
Adelaide Services Alliance contract. I got this role as client liaison manager, where I was pretty much the SA Water person on the management team of All Water. Very fortunate to have won that role, and it was a steep learning curve getting into operations. I was there from 2015 to 2021 to the end of the All Water contract, the Metro Adelaide Services Alliance contract. So we closed that project. We transitioned to the new alliance known as the Production and Treatment Alliance, and so help I guess close one business, open another one up as the SA Water representative. Then an opportunity came up I guess I was always an SA Water employee in that contract, but an opportunity came up to come back into what we call corporate SA Water world.
Yep.
This team water expertise really was my background in the water science laboratory, which has the water science laboratory, has the water quality improvement and compliance team, and also has what we call our treatment expertise team, so all our process engineers. So that role came up, and I acted in there for about 12 months. The GM at the time asked me to apply, with the blessing of my GM in operations, and got the role, and here I am.
Nice, nice. And now we're going to introduce our third speaker. We are very happy to be having a conversation with Emma Milburn. Emma is the Partnerships and Strategy Director for Iota, which is the commercialization entity of Southeast Water. She is an innovative thinker and collaborative leader who has spent much of her career working in the Asia Pacific region. She's passionate about sharing and incubating technology created in Southeast Water and sharing it with the broader water sector. And she also contributes to the water industry on her role as the president of the Victorian branch of the Australian Water Association. Welcome to a Water Connection, Emma.
Thanks so much for having me.
No, that's good. We'd like to start asking a question. How did you end up working in the water sector?
I actually fell into the water sector. I was previously with GE Digital, working on their big data analytics platform across the APAC region. And in my personal life, we were looking to move from the city down to the Mornington Peninsula. And this role came up that just looked fantastic. It looked like everything that I'd been working on in terms of big tech, but translating that into real world value and real world benefits. And all of the values of Southeast Water aligned with my values. And so I just thought it would be a great next step for me. And now that I'm in the water industry and that I've, been connecting right across the industry, seeing particularly through AWA and another committee I sit on, the SWAN Leadership Forum, seeing the breadth of the water industry, I think it's definitely somewhere that I'll stay, and if at all possible.
That's fantastic. So you had a background more in technology. Can you tell us a little bit about that part of your career?
Yeah, so I wasn't actually in the technology. My role has always really been to translate the benefits of the technology for the commercial end customer. Looking at how technology is going to benefit a business, a utility in the instance now, or prior large commercial organizations, how the application of technology is going to enable them to get better use of their assets, longer asset life, more efficient operations, lower impact on the environment, more sustainability, better customer outcomes, essentially. So always in
Yeah,
that
no, that's
translation of technology for business benefit.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good way of like, yeah, showing that the different ways of landing into the water sector, and doing that, I was like translating technology into benefits that probably you were doing in another sector. Now you're doing it here, which in my opinion, we needed a lot. Emma, how does your day to day look like as a partnerships and strategy director for a commercialization of a water utility? How does that look like?
My day looks very varied. So lots of conversations with partners globally who are taking our innovations and scaling them beyond our sort of region. It also looks like working a lot internally with the team to map out what our future direction is, and how we're going to commercialize this portfolio of fantastic innovations that have been born out of Southeast Water or proven in the Southeast Water network to create benefit for those beyond.
That's nice. And how long does it take, like, for an idea? Let's say that there's someone had an idea to take it all the way to now we're gonna share it with the world. Like, I know it must be probably very, very different between ideas, but can you tell us a little bit more about that?
That is a great question, and the answer is probably how long is a piece of string.
Yeah.
It really depends on a few things. One is the complexity of the technology, and sort of how much work needs to be done in bringing that technology right through the technology development pathway. The other piece of that is how ready is the market to adopt that innovation? How much of a innovation step change is that? And obviously, the bigger the step, the longer those sales cycles are, and the longer that adoption takes. So Iota's core role is really to try and speed up innovation adoption for utilities, but by de-risking those innovations and showing not only the technology at work in Southeast Water's network, but also sharing lessons learned from the utility, business case insights, and sort of how the utility has had to adopt from a people and process perspective in implementing that technology for the ultimate benefit. Because
No, it's really.
most of innovation adoption isn't about the technology at all. It's about the people and the processes, and how we can support that.
Yeah, of course it would be. How does your day to day look like? How does a day in Steve's life, work wise, look like?
Yeah, like I'm very fortunate that I have a very variable work life, and that's something that I've specifically sort of sought out, because that's something that is in line with my personality. But generally, my day to day works on some form of delivering projects, working with clients, and working with our team. So that's super broad, but that's generally how it works. So I guess in the last couple of weeks, I've been able to be fortunate enough to present at a conference about sort of thought leadership with one of an Arup alumni who works for our clients now. I've been able to go over to Perth and work with some of our clients and see some of the big projects that we're impacting on the West Coast, and learn about how different I guess a whole state regulation versus smaller utilities, geographic smaller utilities, works, and how that works. And then I've also been fortunate enough to go to Melbourne last week and spend some time with some of the academics and things like that, and look at the graduates they're producing and having impact on what might be coming in the next generation and what they're teaching. So that's been great for me. And then all in the middle of that, I've been working on some of our projects, so delivering with project teams, so really large project teams to deliver stuff, working as a project director or involved in leadership teams. And then I've also got some other projects where it's just myself and I'm working with a client to sort of achieve a specific outcome and put them on a bit of a step change journey. So all over the shop generally, but yeah, I really like it. And mostly it focuses on the work that I do when I'm delivering is around that early stage of the asset life cycle. So strategy, planning, implementation, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And as you say, like some people would enjoy having that variety. I enjoyed it myself. That I'm also kind of in the consulting world to try to kind of work in different projects at the same time, and not one day looks exactly the same. So that sounds really interesting. How does your day to day look like right now? Because it looks like you are kind of in that water expertise in science. Is that advising the rest of the business? How does a day to day look like in your career right now?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's providing that specialist advice. I mean, we provide ourselves. We pride ourselves on the expertise that we have in our teams, whether it be scientific, engineering. We like to say that we're the glue between assets, delivery, and also operations. So a lot of my team, I guess, have that knowledge where we can troubleshoot problems. For instance, the water science team will do laboratory experiments and pilot plant experiments to try to find, a new coagulant, for instance, or that we're trialing. To Jason West team and treatment expertise, where we look at trying to, I guess, design treatment plants for process optimization. Case in point, Bolivar wastewater treatment plant. And then the other part of the business as well is to make sure that we are compliant with all our water quality parameters. So a team led by Amber Lang and my team, we have a very strong link with SA Health, who are our drinking water quality regulator. So we need to make sure that we are compliant with the over the 50,000 analysis that we do every year. So very a broad team, 29 people. Keeps me on my toes.
Nice. And then you would have a mix of skills within your team, as you're saying, like you have some process engineers and then some people that might be more into science. Like is that how it works? That water expertise would have different skills on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So the science people, we have technical guys who and girls in the laboratory that really do the experiments themselves, and then we have what we call our research scientists, where I
Yeah.
came from, for instance. So they'll plan the experiments. They will go out and seek funding from other, I guess, funding bodies, whether it be national or international, and universities. So that's I guess, a defined skill set. The process engineers, I guess by definition, they're the engineers that make sure that our treatment processes, water or wastewater, are fit for purpose. And the compliance team, I guess there's a lot of management expertise there. A lot of them have that scientific background. They came from the laboratories, so they understand where and what our parameters are that we're monitoring for. So, yeah, a pretty much broad skill set, but traditionally in the engineering and scientific base.
Oh, that's good. And it goes to show that even if you have a science degree or an engineering degree, you can end up in a wide range of possibilities of careers in such a big corporation as SA Water. Um, Lionel, what do you like the most about working in the water sector?
What do I like the most? Really,
Yeah.
the people. People. I've been in the water sector for, as I said, as you said, over 25 years. It's the people that you work with. One of the things you learn about the water sector is highly collaborative. People don't really have hidden agendas. They want it for the best outcome. The water sector, we do it for the love. We do it for the fact that we want to, make a better future for our community, and our families. We all do it to make sure that we turn on the tap, we get drinking water, we flush a
That's
toilet, it
right.
takes the waste away, and it's an essential service. And people have told me that our job is probably just as important as doctors, because we are providing a health service for our community.
That's right. That's right. It's such a, and especially for you being directly in SA Water delivering that service here in South Australia. And for you that have work in different sectors, what is the thing that you like the most about working in the water sector in this technology to benefit part of the water sector?
Yeah, I think the thing that is uniquely water is the sharing that happens in the water industry. It's quite unlike any other industry that I've experienced, in that we're not in competition with each other. Utilities aren't in active competition, and so there's a huge amount of collaboration and sharing and aiming to not have everybody make the same mistakes, but share as much as possible in order to avoid that and to help others leapfrog.
Yeah.
Whether that be innovation adoption, whether that be getting to net zero, there's a huge amount of complexity coming towards the water sector, and I think that collaboration is uniquely water and what makes the water industry a fantastic place to work.
Yeah. In the work that Iota does, is that to accelerate innovation that is created only in Southeast Water, or there are projects that you do in conjunction with other utilities, or even innovations from other utilities?
Yeah, so currently the technologies that are in our portfolio, most of them have been born out of Southeast Water, so created within Southeast Water. There's a really active R&D group within Southeast Water who take those sort of challenges and early stage ideas that come from the business and bring them through the R&D cycle. We are commercializing pyrolysis technology, which is a biosolids to biochar conversion technology from
Yeah.
RMIT, a university here in Melbourne. But currently our sort of model is that we will commercialize things that are proven at Southeast Water. And what that does is gets to that point of trying to de-risk those innovations for other utilities as well.
Yeah, no, and I think it's great to have a place where perhaps research that has happened in universities where they might not have a lot of infrastructure to try out some things, then they can do it at Southeast Water, prove it, take it to the next level, and then share it with the rest of the utilities. Steve, what do you like the most about working in the water sector?
There's lots of different things I do like about the water sector, and I think anybody will tell you that it's not just one thing. But overarching, I think it comes down to the people that I work with and the things that I get to impact. So one of the really great things that I love about the water industry is that because of the way that we're set up structurally, we are generally monopoly service providers in a geographic area. So therefore, collaboration is something that's built into our DNA because there is no commercial competition between service providers. So you want to collaborate, you want to share ideas, and then that culture is built into your organization, and that's what you seek from your suppliers. And generally, you have people who come to the water industry seeking that sort of culture and seeking the outcomes that we sort of provide in the communities that we work in. And that is one of the things that I really love, is that I work with people all around the world, and that core personality doesn't shift a lot. And that's something that I really love, is that we can work on things with that mindset about like improving and being collaborative and all of those sorts of things all around the world together. And that's been something that I've really, really enjoyed and is very different to other industries, even others that, like the energy industry, for example, they also have utilities that service areas, but it's not quite the same because they have commercial incentives between them or different ways that they can do that. So I think we're really unique in that sense, and it attracts people that really want to work in that system, and that's what attracted me.
Yeah, that's totally true, and that's something that has been a common driver with the people that I've been able to speak during this season of A Water Connection, is like collaboration, and the people in the industry is something that everyone is highlighting all the time. So yeah, I agree with that as well. And on the flip side, what is difficult about working in this sector?
Again, there's a few things. I think particularly is the lack of outside views sometimes, and I think that's really changing since COVID. But I have definitely worked both on the client side with the utility and consultant side. And before COVID, I really saw, well, if you aren't two doors down from us or you aren't right next to us, you don't have that much to offer to us. You need to be right there. You need to be in our office. You need to be talking with us about what we're doing. And also similarly, someone from Sydney doesn't have anything to offer a utility in Melbourne. And very similarly, if someone from Sydney doesn't have anything to offer to somebody on the East Coast or in a different sort of area. And that's really shifted since COVID, but I think it's still prevalent. And one of the reasons is because of the things that we talked about that we really love, is that we're structurally set up to be monopoly service providers in geographic areas. So we have different regulators, different communities, different stakeholders, which means that our problems sometimes are quite different or how we deal with them. But that's one of the things. The other is, I guess, that we're an invisible workforce sometimes, or an invisible industry. So historically, and again, this is slightly shifting, but we only talked to customers or our community when we cut off their water or when we build them. So generally two negative aspects. We now engage with them a lot more, but I definitely had a misconception that water is really boring because I couldn't see it. You can see other industries. You can point towards the big holes in the ground in mining, or the coal loaders, or things like that, and you go, oh, okay, like that's kind of cool. Whereas you can't tend to point to our assets, even when they're not hidden underneath the ground. They're often in areas that are deliberately less intrusive or less seen. I think that's really difficult to deal with, and therefore the value that sometimes our community provides on the services that we deliver, because we have that unknown aspect, is really tough.
Yeah, that's a really, again, something that I've been talking with other people as well. But what you say is very true. The interaction that normally water utilities would have with the community are like more on the negative side of things, is like rather than the positive. So there's certainly something for all of us to think about, like how else can we make people understand a little bit more what is happening behind the scenes to provide this essential service. And on the other side, like, what's the most difficult aspect for you to work in the water sector?
I think the thing that we're all going to find a challenge moving forward in this sector, but in many sectors across Australia, is the shortage of skills, and asking our people to adapt and do things differently. So, we're going to be faced with a lot of challenges that we don't know what they are right now, and we don't know what sort of skills our utilities or companies need in order to get to solve for those challenges. And so I think we're all going to need to be really adaptable, work through some ambiguity. And in a traditional, long-standing industry like water, that isn't always that comfortable. So I think as an industry, leaning into that and sort of making small bets where we need to, and kind of putting one foot in front of the other to move towards that, is going to be really important.
Yeah, I think you highlight something very important, is that this sector has been around for a long time, so we have been doing stuff in a certain way. And then in your role as innovation kind of leader, then it's a matter of like adapting and inviting the sector and motivated to take the next step and to change some of the stuff so we can address those challenges. So yeah, for sure, I can relate to that. And similar to that, or the opposite, should I say, what's the most difficult aspect of working in this sector?
Yeah, well, where I'm at SE Water, it's a pro and con, but we are a monopoly in South Australia. We're the only water utility provider. Well, not the only water. We're the major water utility provider here in South Australia, and we're owned by the state government. So with that comes responsibilities. And so our owner has expectations on us. We have to run a commercial business, and we obviously have to ensure that we protect our people, but we also have to make sure that we are viable as a business as well. So that's a balancing act that we have to manage. But first and foremost, our role is to ensure that we have the best. We are the best service delivery provider in this state.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And talking about maybe some story that you can think about, can you tell us something that brings you joy in your career? If you say, I work in this project and it really brought me a lot of joy, or something that you would like to share with us and the people listening to this episode?
Yeah, look, the technical elements have always been nice. One of the things that I used to pride myself on in the research space was the publications. So I, was able to publish lots of papers in the past. That in itself was good. It was like the chase, and also getting the research funding to do the project. So I did love that for a while. the challenge then became in operations was just trying to understand the depth of the business, and what our people have to deal with on a daily basis, whether it be in the treatment plants or out in the networks. And I really got an appreciation of what, for instance, our networks people have to deal with, 24/7. But really, the thing that I find that's quite inspiring is again going back is the people. It's being able to, I guess, be a role model and a mentor for people. I've managed lots of students and I guess early career researchers in the past, and seeing them, I guess, go on to bigger and better things has been quite fulfilling. And being able to maintain a relationship with them still, whether it be in conferences that I haven't seen for a while. Yeah, that's what really, I guess, motivates me to keep going on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, especially for you that had an experience in research, maybe like guiding students and supervising students and like seeing them thrive in different ways. And at the end of the day, we're a very small sector, so we kind of keep seeing each other in all these different events and things. So yeah, it would be quite fulfilling for you to see how they are contributing towards the same sector that you have been putting a lot of effort doing all this time. Yeah, that's great. Steve, can you tell us a story that brings you joy from your career?
Yeah. I actually have a visual aid for this one, which you're not probably going to see, but just for
No, yeah, we'll put this on YouTube, so
the
it'll be
audio medium, I'm showing my phone background,
Yeah.
which is a beach. So that's the
Yep.
beach near my house. Lots of people think that that's a really lovely background of a photo of a beach, and it is. But what a lot of people don't understand is that actually is the outfall location for the sewage treatment plant, of which is my local one, but the one that I worked
Yep.
on for several years and was intimately involved in lots of different projects there. And that one really brings me joy because I was able to work on something that is part of my daily usage, I guess, impacts lots and lots of people, and again is something that's relatively unseen or unheard of to our local community, which is in this case great. We don't want them to be noticing that we're discharging our sewage, because that means we haven't done it well enough. So
Particularly well.
that's something that really brings me joy, that I got to work on that project, and it's just behind my house, and it's something that's affecting almost everyone that I know and interact with. And I was able to keep that beach as pristine and keep people using it and keep interacting with it. And that's something that I think really brings me joy every time I look at that. And I've had that photo of that screensaver through multiple different versions of phone. And that's something that really brings me joy. And I guess coming back to some of the reasons why I'm doing the job and the projects that I do.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, because yes, again, that connection with community, and in your case, your local community and your house, which is something that maybe not everyone has even the opportunity to do, depending on where we work in the industry. So, lovely share about that joy feeling that you got from there. So, thank you very much for sharing that. And Emma, is there any story that you can tell or you can share with us that brings you a lot of joy from your time in the water sector?
Yeah, absolutely. I think particularly in getting those skills into the industry, one thing that stands out as a highlight for me at Ozwater this year, there was two main things that for me were fantastic to see. There was a huge influx of school children at the exhibition hall.
Yeah.
So ranging from primary school children all the way up to university students. And seeing them really engaged in water challenges and sort of getting that on the ground tactical view of what working in the water industry is about. And I thought that was fantastic. The other thing is that as a Victorian committee, we worked with sponsors to enable new migrants or immigrants to Australia to come to that conference for free, to have a tour around the exhibition hall. These are really skilled people working who were working in engineering roles, and are sort of entering a new environment and looking
Yeah.
for opportunities. So it was great to see both the the next generation of professionals that could be entering the water industry, but also those professionals who are just entering into the Australian market. And I think it's important to embrace both if we're going to find the skills that we need for our local market.
Oh, definitely. I mean, one of the reasons, and this is one of the challenges that many of my guests during this first season has highlighted, and is the lack of skills and people that we need to really to work on this. And that market of like migrant professionals is something that I'm deeply connected as a migrant myself as well. That is, you see so many people that are like terribly smart and like ready to go, and they just need the opportunity to get the foot on the door and then prove themselves that what they can do. So yeah, I really value what you guys have done down there in Victoria for Water this year. Like we have Water next year in Adelaide, so I'll make sure I pass on that idea so we can do something similar. But then yeah, it's wonderful for us to really put open the doors for people that come from other places, because they have a lot of talent and a lot of different ways of thinking that we can definitely use in our industry here. Yes. Emma, what skills do you wish you had pursued earlier in your career if you would have had the chance?
I think working more on a strategic mindset earlier
Yeah.
would have been really beneficial and really impactful in that. I think it's a progression that everybody goes through in their career, from a lot of doing work, a lot of doing the activity and delivering and to-do lists and getting things done, to actually creating some space and time to think and to be intentional about the to-do list. Everyone has a to-do list and still has to get things done, but creating space so that the things that you're doing are the right things at the right time, and sort of saying no to things where historically maybe you wouldn't, and you would have just ticked it off because it was on your to-do list.
Yeah, I think it's a good angle, because you we all have different values, probably some similar values, being in this industry, but we all have maybe different goals, and this will relate to a question that I have here later. But then yeah, trying to be a bit more intentional in it. Is this particular thing I'm pursuing, is it taking me there, or is it really deviating for me and from that? And I guess there's a balance also in like trying something new and maybe finding a new path. But if you start trying too many things, then maybe you get a little bit lost in that strategic thinking. So yeah, I think that's a really really interesting answer. Yeah. I had another question here. What skills or experiences do you wish you had maybe pursue a little bit earlier in your career that you would have liked to learn a little bit earlier?
Oh, good question. Look, I think having the technical background is good. It grounds you, and so that no one can take that away from you. But really, it's the people skills. It's the soft skills, the stakeholder management skills. So, I firmly believe that stakeholder engagement and management is a journey. It's not you can never land on it and say I've got it. I'm
Yeah.
perfect at it, because you're dealing with different people on a daily basis. So really, that if I would have got some formal education in that space, that would have been good. I've had to learn on the job, and being able to speak to different people at different, in different, I guess, fields, whether it be the frontline operators, to chief executives, or even politicians and ministers. So that stakeholder engagement has been a steep learning curve for me. Yeah, obviously made mistakes and had to learn the hard way in some instances, but that's okay. That's the journey. So that in itself was interesting. I think the other element that I had to learn on the job that I wish I would have learned early was, I guess, management theory and finance. So
Yeah.
that's my advice to others. Great to have a technical background, but learn about management theory, learn about finance, because that really is that next step for us.
Yeah, for sure. And as you say, like when you're talking about what's difficult and like being in a corporation that has a government to respond to, and like all of that just comes back to that management and finance that maybe we wouldn't have had specifically or like formally as we were like being formed at universities or in our early days in our careers. What skills or experiences do you wish you had pursued earlier in your career? Like if you look a little bit back, what things you would have liked to learn a bit earlier?
Yeah, I guess that one's, I'm going to give a really cliche answer, but you wouldn't necessarily change the things that you've done because it's led us to the place that you are. But I think just the overarching answer for that one was challenge my assumptions. So I mentioned that I'd assumed that the water industry was kind of boring, and I worked with like in university a few people who went to go to the water industry and really wanted to do that, and I thought, oh no, like that's a really boring area. It's not for me. I don't really want to do that. And I had built up assumptions based on a set of knowledge that I have. Now know a incomplete set of knowledge, but I would have probably tested that a little bit more. And I think spent more time trying to find out the things that I liked and didn't like rather than just the things that I did like. Because as a young person generally, but even still now, I like lots of things. And finding out what I don't like is something that I've found really important for my career because it narrows down the things that I want to be involved in or things like that, whereas I like lots of things. So the opportunities are endless. So I think particularly that's what I would have spent more time doing is testing those assumptions. And I guess the other thing is soft skills. So particularly in my last couple of years of university, I have seen the change of the people that I was involved with to now, opposed to the people who I guess were less engaged in that group work, less engaged in some of those things that didn't necessarily mean that they got a different mark or they got 1 mark more, but has really affected their ability to integrate into a work environment, their ability to go out and have meaningful careers and get promoted in the same, I guess, pace or way as those around them. And some of those things are the untaught unknowns that are your soft skills or the way that you interact with people or having that discipline. So last week I was spending some time with some lecturers and university admins, and that was one of the things that we talked about is the ability for people to be ready for a work environment by the time that they finish their study. And what that means is very, very I guess abstract sometimes, but there is a distinct difference, and everybody knows it from going from university to or high school to university and then university to work. And some of those things are about being self-driven and things like that. So that's the other skill that I would probably say was really important as part of that time, was around that being workforce or workplace ready, and that shift in mindset between turning up to lectures once in a blue moon and doing my 51% compared to what I do in a day-to-day thing at work and in a workplace.
Yeah, I think you highlight that very important. That is, your technical skills and your knowledge is very important, but like those soft skills and the way you collaborate with people in the workplace, it really makes the difference on how your career is going to go and the kind of impact that you also get to have in the projects that you work on. So yeah, really good point there. Now we're moving into a really fun part of this episode. After sharing their own stories, we gave our 3 guests the chance to ask each other some questions. But remember, they did not know who they were asking the questions to or who they were answering questions from. It brought out some fantastic insights and added a whole new layer to the conversation. So sit back and enjoy this segment where our water professionals turn into interviewers and share their curiosity with one another.
again, coming back to a conversation I had for some first year graduates and a course that's being written at USyd, what are the things that our future people in the water industry need to be equipped for that we aren't equipped for today, or that we are starting to become equipped for?
Good question.
I know, it was really good.
Again, I think it's being able to diversify and seize the opportunities. I think, let's say if I look at a younger me back in the day, when I was in research and science, it was just focusing in that really narrow field. Really need to lift those eyes and see what's beyond that. And I think diversifying your skill set. So I mentioned management theory and finance, but also learning about that, the soft skills, dare I say, learn about HR, human resources, and HR or people and culture, you could call it, is quite broad, because you can talk about, building culture, making sure that you're across, things such as, working in a diverse and embracing diversity, for instance, as well. It's something that you're probably not exposed to. We are, in this day and age, more exposed to diversity, which is great. I mean, diverse thinking is something that promotes better collaboration and better outcomes. I think studies have shown that. I think the other element is, collaborating, working with a wide range of people, not just in your field, but also in others, because that understanding in another field can actually come back, and you better find some nuances where you can, I guess, implement some of the findings that you've heard outside of that. I guess finally, getting involved. I honestly would not be here in where I'm at today if I didn't get involved with associations such as the AWA, Australian Water Association, the International Water Association, etc. Again, lifting those eyes and seeing what else is out there, that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. I think that has been key for me starting my career, for example, here in Australia, and it's like, let's find out who's who in this industry, and like an association has been key for that.
If I can ask the next person, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? What does 5 years' time look like for the next person? It's a question that I try to ask myself, but also my people, and it's a tough one. So, yeah.
That is a really interesting question, and for me, a challenging question, I think, in that I have moved through my career very much without an end goal, and almost intentionally, in that I think sometimes if you have that in sight, I think it's maybe different if you're in sort of a traditional field like engineering. Maybe the career path is clearer. I studied financial economics, and I'm now working in partnerships and strategy, and I've gone through marketing and project management and program delivery in that time. And so I think that I possibly wouldn't have gotten here if I'd had a clear path.
Yes.
So my sort of my way of moving through my career is to say yes to things that are exciting and that I see growth opportunities for myself in, and then just sort of making sure that I take all of those opportunities and build on them as much as I can. So that would be, it's not really an answer because I don't actually see myself in a specific place in 5 years' time. But what I would say is, if it's at all within my control, I'll be in the water industry.
Yeah, we hope so. Like that you stay within the water industry because you're doing really important work. And even if we think about where were we 5 years ago, I would have never said that I would be sitting here doing this with you or doing any of the stuff that I do right now. So it's like a really, you can't plan for the future. Things, I mean, you have values and you have things that guide you, and then you just look back and see how things make sense. So that's sometimes all we can do.
It's an interesting point you make there about the values, but I definitely earlier in my career was in an industry that was not aligned at all to my values. So I worked for a mercantile agency. Yep. At the time, I didn't appreciate, I don't think, how much being at conflict with your values is absolutely exhausting. Yes. So I think, now that I've found this industry that is really aligned with my values, it's important for me to sort of lean into that. What would you say to somebody early in their career that you wish somebody had told you?
Great question. I think that trusting my ability to learn on the job was probably something that I wish I'd been told earlier in my career, and something that I would tell people now early in their career. Instead of opting out of opportunities because you might not be perfect or you don't quite know how to do it, rather opt in and trust your ability to learn on the job. One of the things that university and early careers programs really teach us is the ability to learn rather than have all the knowledge and all the experience. So really trust in your ability to learn on the job and opt into those situations that give you those learning and growing experiences.
We have now reached the last few questions to these amazing water professionals. As is now tradition, I normally ask the same 3 questions at the end of each episode, but the first one being, why do you work in water, has already been covered today. So it's always interesting to see the variety of answers, and it helps us get a different perspective on the challenges and opportunities in the water sector. So the first question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge the water industry is facing right now?
Skills, I think, is one of the really big things, because it's pervasive in everything that we do. It's not just, do we have the skills to work on the projects that we have and the forward workload that we have? Do we have enough people? Do we have the right skills? And I think the thing that's really challenging for me is that we sort of had a values-based or moral superiority as a water industry over other industries historically, and we don't really have that anymore when we compare it to, I think, particularly renewable energies and sustainability in that sense. Like, a lot of people are going to those industries for the same value-aligned reasons that they came here, but often they have higher salaries or different other things because they're not necessarily directly for communities or customers in the same way that water is. It's more a commercial model. So I think that's going to be our real skill. And it's not just engineers or scientists, it's economists, it's stakeholder managers, it's comms and community, it's all of those things, but it's also our paraprofessional and our trades and our operators, I think, is really, really important. So one of the things that I've definitely noticed is that because we have a lack of numbers in our paraprofessionals, we're having some of our, so paraprofessionals being our drafters, our CAD, those sorts of and modelers, those sorts of skills, that we're having some of our people that count as professionals, like our engineers or scientists, doing those roles, and they're not as good at those. They're good at things, but you all form part of a puzzle, and using your skills in a different part of the puzzle is often not as efficient or things like that. And I think that's going to cause us issues as well when we talk about the affordability of the work that we're trying to produce and the efficiency as well. So I think that's going to be our thing, because it's pervasive to everything that we do at the moment.
I actually think when you look at the water sector, there is climate change impacts, there's population growth, there's aging infrastructure, there's customer expectations, there are existential threats like cyber, and I actually think the main challenge, each of those individually is a huge challenge, but when you collectively put those together, I think that is the major challenge. How do we look at and contend with all of those things simultaneously while not dropping the ball on providing a really solid water and wastewater and stormwater service to our customers.
I think you touched on it's the being able to attract and retain talent. I think in the past, certainly back in my day when I was a PhD student, we had different CRCs, cooperative research centres, that were water based. So I think we had 3 or 4 at the time, and and that talent pool where we had in the CRC I was involved with, which was the water quality and treatment CRC. We had in excess of 50 PhD and master's students, which is unprecedented back in the day. And that talent pool, a lot of those people, the alumni of that, are now our leaders in our in our industry. That doesn't exist anymore. That funding is not around from the government, and a lot of the CRCs are based on more commercial elements, rightly or wrongly. But water, trying to retain that talent is going to be and attract in the first instance is going to be the big challenge.
That's right.
And I want to make sure that we have that. We're tapping into that. Starting at the grassroots level. Even in primary schools. So SA Water has an education program. I know AWA has careers in water now that's going that they're trying to implement, but making sure that we have creating that I guess that critical mass is important.
And last but not least, what would be your message to young water professionals who might be listening to this right now?
Yeah, so if you've started your career in the sector, look around you and grab hold of everyone that you can. One of the greatest things that I've ever done for my career is have mentors and have supporters and sponsors and coaches. And one of the things that I try and do is do that to people that come behind me in the same way. And I've used those people in very, very different ways. I've picked people who have completely different skill sets to me, but similar personalities who have done really well, and find out what about that has helped them do that. I've picked people who are very, very similar to me technically, but have a different mindset and work with them. And I think that has allowed me to understand a lot of different people and help blend that into the way that I deliver things. And people in the water industry are really, really open to that sort of stuff. So I'd say reach out, grab hold of those people who are around you and ask for that mentorship, that coaching, that sponsorship.
My message would be, if you get an opportunity to go into water, say yes. Take all of the options, all of the offers for mentorship, for connection, for networking. I know it's not that comfortable sometimes for a lot of people to sort of lean into those things, but I would say that it's a really friendly industry, and so lean into those things and people will support you all the way through.
Don't rest on your laurels. Adopt a continuous improvement philosophy. Always look for that next challenge. Get involved, seize opportunities, diversify. But most importantly, out of all that, have fun, enjoy the journey. You're only a young water professional for a few years, right? Enjoy the journey while you can, because when you become a senior person, you look back and you think, oh God, I had a lot of fun. But also, I guess, collaborate with people around the same demographic as you, because, you guys will be the ones moving up and in your professional careers at that time, and having that relationship that you had as a PhD student, for instance, or as a young professional, is going to be important, because those networks that you build at an early age helps, I guess, forge your future.
And with that, we wrap up the final episode of Season 1 of A Water Connection. I want to sincerely thank each of you for following along, listening, and supporting this project throughout the year. It's been an amazing journey, and I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. If you found this episode inspiring and interesting, please share it with your family, friends, and colleagues, or share it around in social media. And don't forget, you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube to stay updated. I'm also thrilled to share some exciting news. Our Water Connection will be back in 2025 for season 2, and we will be returning with a fantastic sponsor to help take the podcast to the next level. I honestly cannot wait. We would love your feedback on what topics you would like to hear in season 2. So connect with us on LinkedIn and let us know your thoughts or leave a comment on YouTube. But until that time, thank you for being part of this journey. See you next time.